Hey, welcome back everybody to another episode of PK's Lab.
No. You have not tuned into the wrong channel. I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you are super duper going to learn something today. This guy right here is Paul Kurucz. He has a YouTube channel called PK's Lab. There's a link to it down in the video description. He goes super duper in depth, like with oscilloscopes, into what these modules are doing, the TrueDX, the ClearView, the RapidFire, into what they're doing like at the signal level. And in this interview that I'm about to do with him, we're going to see, well, basically we're going to see why RapidFire is better than TrueDX, like with oscilloscopes. So thank you to Paul for coming on my channel doing an interview with me. If you guys want to check out his channel, he goes even more in depth. There's a link down in the video description. Enjoy. So I have no idea what all we're going to get into, but you first reached out with some insights about what RapidFire was doing with sync reconstruction. And then, I don't know, I was like, let's just cut this guy loose. So I don't know, you tell me, what have you found?
Well, I figured this one we try to focus on the TrueDX, because that's the module you bought for me to look at.
Yeah.
And I actually, on the bench today, I've got set up the TrueDX, the RapidFire, and a ClearView 1.0 ground station. And we can kind of look at all three of them at the same time on an oscilloscope and see how they're doing things the same and doing things the different.
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued already.
So I basically have, I don't know if you can see my mouse cursor. So I got the TrueDX on the upper left here.
I can see your mouse cursor. Yeah.
RapidFire and ClearView. And so we're just looking at, on the oscilloscope, the top trace is the raw output from Foxy or Falcor in NTSC mode. We're just looking at that line. Then we're looking at the output from the TrueDX, the RapidFire, and the ClearView. Again, all three of these are going into easy caps, so they're all terminated into 75 ohms into the capture device itself. So it's not like the voltage levels are wrong. This is exactly what would be going into your Fat Sharks if you were to plug in to the AV connector.
And the easy cap is a capture device that's letting you use these three images that we're viewing. Basically, the easy cap is what's bringing that signal into your computer, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
The other thing I want to comment about the easy cap in particular, and if you look at the brightness of these images is different. Like I've noticed it has trouble sometimes getting the black and white level right when the video signal goes away and comes back. Sometimes it becomes underexposed and overexposed. So just because it looks different on the screen, that doesn't mean that that's the easy, or the video module itself. That's the easy cap not getting the black and white levels right. So,
okay, fair enough. Fair enough. We'll blame that on the easy cap. So the fact that TrueDX is brighter and RapidFire and ClearView are darker.
So the video camera is going into my signal generator that I used on the other videos. So it's a Rhodian short signal generator. It just lets me turn up and down the transmit power really easily and turn the RF output on and off really quick. I'm going to stand up next to it. I'm going to see if you can hear the relays clicking on and off as I turn the RF on and off. Could you hear that? It's like
yeah, for sure. So
okay.
When you say turn the RF on and off, are you going through a 5 gigahertz video transmitter?
So the signal generator is the video transmitter, and I just have it going into a little rubber ducky, and I've got a right and left hand antenna on each module. And the reason I'm doing this is we can get more multipath this way, right? We want to see more of the bounces and pops and clicks.
So it's not an actual 5 gig VTX, but it is acting like one. But then you can kind of tweak the signal to manipulate the environment and manipulate what the modules are seeing.
That's correct, yeah. It just makes it easier to adjust the transmit power. Instead of having to press buttons and turn it up and down, it's got attenuation setting on the front.
Fantastic.
All right,
I'm so excited right now. I can't wait for whatever it is you're going to show us.
So we're going to zoom out just a little bit so we can talk about the basics of a video signal. This is just going to be some background. So again, a video signal is constructed by scanning horizontal lines to create a field, and the field you can take two fields to create a frame. So because it's interlaced video, you do the even lines, and then the next frame you do the odd lines. Pretty sure most of your viewers have heard that stuff before. So to delineate where the lines start and then where a whole field starts, or the whole half image starts. There's a vertical blanking set of pulses and the horizontal pulses. So if we look at this, we have, I'm going to see if you can see my finger in here. We've got these little short pulses, and they happen at very regular intervals. So those are the horizontal video pulses. And then...
And is that at the end of each of the scan lines?
Yes, the end or the beginning, depending on how you want to look at it.
Okay.
But you are correct. Usually you look at it as the end because it's the signal that tells the electron gun, or traditionally the electron gun, to go sweep from the right-hand side of the screen all the way back to the left, and it gives it the time to do that. And then this kind of area in here is the vertical blanking interval, and then kind of like the first handful of lines that don't really actually get output on the screen. So it's kind of like above the top of the screen. So the critical thing is, for vertical blanking, it's this kind of pattern that you see in here, right?
And that is when we talk about like the screen rolls and we've lost our sync, that is the part that tells the module how to sort of line the frame up so the screen doesn't roll. Is that correct?
That's 100% correct, yeah. And so actually, if we take a quick look here, so you can actually see something that the RapidFire does different than the other two. So again, green is TrueD, blue is RapidFire, and then that pinkish color is ClearView. I'm just going to turn the RF off.
Okay.
So it's basically like just getting full static. And you can see the waveforms are different. Let's see if I can bring the...
Because when you've turned the RF off, whatever we see is what the module is. The module is now manufacturing that signal. Is that right?
You're actually seeing the noise floor of the receiver. So in any kind of radio, there's thermal noise.
But when you turned that off, I still saw those sync pulses. They were still there, even though you turned so where's that coming from?
So that's what they're doing inside to reproduce the sync pulses, and all three of them do it slightly differently. So it's kind of interesting. The kind of focus on the RapidFire.
Okay.
You can kind of see that it reproduces both edges, right?
Yeah. So, nothing really changed.
Right.
When we went to stat, now it's gone.
Yeah, so this is in medium mode. So the original default mode would hold on for like 5 or 6 seconds doing both edges. In medium, it seems like it's a second or two there. And then if you put it in that fast mode, it's like way less than that. But I left it in medium so that we can kind of see it happening. And it has like 2 stages that the RapidFire does. Like it holds on real good there. It's like DC coupled. And then it goes into like a click, AC coupled, where it makes a beep, and then it gives up. So
for everybody who's watching, some people are watching and they're going, oh yeah, it's obvious. But just in case for some people who are watching, it's not obvious. This is why modules like the RapidFire can maintain an image that doesn't roll even in the presence of a lot of static. When that sync pulse is corrupted by static or interference or whatever, the RapidFire basically is just reconstructing it based on what it's seen in the past, so that any remaining image information still is not rolling. Is that about right?
That's 100% correct. Yeah.
Okay, and we can just see that right there in that we can just observe that that sync pulse stays even after you turn off the transmitter.
Yeah, and so it's interesting if we, instead of focusing on the RapidFire, we focus on the ClearView. And I know it's a lot to have 4 things going on at the screen at the same time. You can see it doesn't clamp the vertical sync the same way the RapidFire does. Actually, turn him off so we can just see. You can see.
Right.
So I'm sorry. Actually, I said the wrong thing. I was meant to say TrueD. Sorry about that.
Oh, my bad.
But
what are we looking for?
You can see like it actually that noise that the receiver would get. Like actually looking at the ClearView is kind of a good example. This is like the noise, but it's not really hard clamped. The TrueD like hard clamps it, right? So it limits it to what the valid video signal level would be. So it actually ends up creating these really harsh edges, right? You can see the ClearView makes like it doesn't clamp the signal,
right?
So what I think we'll see as we go on in this video is these hard edges are kind of what contributes to the TrueD. Like it tends to roll more than the other two.
Yeah, when you said the TrueD clamps it to what a valid video signal would be, and the ClearView doesn't, my thought was, oh, the TrueD is better because it's like making it more like a valid video signal. But you're saying that sort of shaving off the top of the signal is actually creating distortion that's going to make it worse performing.
Yeah, let's actually set that up. So we'll keep this going here. So all I'm going to do is I have the little rubber ducky in my hand, and I'm going to turn down the transmit power on this until we start getting some noise, and I'm going to start moving it around. And you can kind of see the TrueD tends to bounce around more, right? And we had a little rolling from the RapidFire.
Are we supposed to be looking at the images, not the oscilloscope?
Oh, that's correct. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. So in general, the ClearView and the RapidFire trying to keep that sync the most. Actually, we lost lock here, so I got to give everybody a chance to get it back. Sorry, getting a little too.
Yep, RapidFire's rolling, struggling. Oof. Yeah. ClearView staying locked in. There we go. RapidFire got the lock back. Everybody's got lock. Okay, go ahead. Do it again.
It's a little tough to tell, but we're looking for which rolls side to side more.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe it's because of that hard clamping that the TrueD does that it gets a little more of that side shake. And
I kind of see what you're. I see what you're referring to now. It's almost like a wobbliness side to side on the TrueD. Not even a whole frame wobbliness, but within the frame, it's almost like a jello.
Yeah.
Whereas the RapidFire and the ClearView don't have that.
Yeah, they just sit there until they lose sync, and then you're in trouble.
And then, then everybody's done.
Yeah.
Why do you think, any speculation as to why TrueD does that? Is there a possible advantage that they're going for? Is there an engineering trade-off that they've made in doing it this way?
I think it was easier for them to do the clamping in their circuitry to achieve that particular effect, just because of how they're going through a couple op amps, and then they maybe have some clamping diodes on it, and then go through another couple op amp stages. So there's another interest.
So you're speculating that it might be just cheaper.
It might be easier to implement. Yeah,
easier to implement. Okay.
So there is something interesting too with the TrueD that I had emailed them back and forth, and I put you on the email chain about their actual, like the white level of the video signal. So I can kind of show you guys that if we scroll over, and it actually affects what's going on in the sync reproduction and because of how it's doing the clamping. So if you look at this line here, you can kind of see that this is the output from the Falcor camera again, and you can kind of see how the TrueDX has like a flat top here. And I'm actually running the TrueDX off of a bench power supply and feeding it 5 volts. So when we plug this into our Fat Shark goggles, there's a little loss over the traces to the module itself. So it actually, when you're feeding it, you're usually only getting about 4.8 volts. So if we look at the actual EasyCap footage, you can see we lost like a little bit of contrast. If I turn it back up, that's 5 volts. That's 4.8.
And which EasyCap am I looking at? The TrueD?
The TrueD one, the upper left.
And I'm looking at the white level that's changing, basically the brightness.
The brightness. So I'm going to turn it back up, and it's very subtle, but
yeah,
it actually turns out that if we do that test that we just did before, where I'm moving around and the amount of bounciness, I believe it actually gets worse when I run it at a lower level. Let's see if I can turn it down just a little more.
So we're looking for the horizontal bouncing.
Yeah.
I'd see it. I think it's more apparent in this test than it was in the previous one.
At 5 volts, right.
Looking at the TrueD.
So I'm actually going to take the TrueD. I'm going to turn it up to 5.5 volts. Let's see. Oh, maybe it's about the same.
I'm definitely seeing that horizontal bouncing you were talking about in the TrueD.
Yeah.
But you're suggesting that this voltage level will make that worse or better.
It does make it worse or better because of how it's clamping that video signal. And then the other thing, you end up losing a little bit of your highlight detail there. So like when I have it cranked up to 5.5 volts, like the picture looks nice. You get like a good range of contrast all up in here. The whites look nice and everything. But if we bring it back down to 4.8, things start just looking like real washed out.
Yeah, and again, I'll remind everybody who's watching that the fact that the TrueDX is brighter than the RapidFire and the ClearView in this image has to do with the capture card that's being used, not any inherent quality of the module, just as a reminder.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I've got a separate video I can send you that's DVR, like the Fat Shark DVR, and then also the in-goggle view. All three of them line up with when you run the module on the voltages that we actually see in our module bay. The image definitely has less contrast, and white areas tend to get like blown out.
So you're talking about the input voltage here, and you're saying that if you have a TrueDX, you will do better with a higher input voltage. Is that right?
So it has to be the input voltage going into the module itself. So the 9 or 10 pin header that it's plugging into the Fat Shark, it really wants to see 5 volts or a little bit more there for it to give you the best picture quality.
So, for example, some people out there have done the L1 mod to their goggles, but not the L10 mod, and they may be seeing 4.5 or 4.3 volts, and their module is working. But you're saying that if they were giving it 5.0 volts or maybe even a little more, then the module will perform better.
That's right. Yeah, your picture quality would be quite a bit better. Yeah.
Now, the RapidFire, I personally, I'm a little bit surprised to hear that the picture quality of the module is affected substantially by the input voltage. I would expect that as long as the input voltage was within the approved range, whatever, 4.5 to 5.2, that the image would be basically the same. Do you see a similar thing with the RapidFire and the ClearView?
Not so much. I haven't done a full up comparison. That's not exactly fair for the ClearView because I'm running off of 12 volts. So.
Oh, right. The ClearView isn't a goggle module, of course.
Yeah.
It just gets, but I mean, it can run. I can't remember the input voltage range for it. Does it just run off 3S only?
It says 9 to 17.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting. I don't know if it's the best use of our time right this minute, but it would be interesting to know if the RapidFire, especially because it runs off of the goggle module bay, and the ClearView, if they are consistent across a range of input voltages, while the TrueD has this effect.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. Let me show you one other quick thing here.
For sure.
While we got everything set up for just the voltage stuff. So again, focus on this part of the trace, and I'll tell you what voltage is. So right now it's at 4.7.
Okay.
Get my fat finger out there. So it's 4.4, 4.5, and you can see how all the video lines are getting taller.
Yeah.
Right?
You're changing the input voltage.
That's right, and we're at 5.2 volts right now.
As you change the input voltage, the entire video signal gets clamped at whatever the input voltage is.
Yeah. And so
Holy cow.
if we did the same thing, like if we turn off the RF and just give it noise, you can see that as I reduce the voltage.
Oh, wow.
Here, let me get the rapid.
No, that shouldn't. I mean, I'm no expert on video signals and stuff, but that doesn't seem right at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, we could easily observe if that same thing happens with the RapidFire and the ClearView just by feeding. I mean, we know they're not clamping, though. So if there was an effect, it would be a more subtle effect.
Yeah, give me about a minute or so to switch things over here. We can do the same test.
Okay.
Do. So that should be the TrueD coming back.
Okay.
So I've got this running off of a crappy little boost regulator that boosts the voltage up to 5 volts. So the TrueD is going to have like a little bit of popping, and that's from the regulator. So we're not looking at that one. What we really care about is the RapidFire. So let me make sure.
Wow, I see that popping. That's very interesting. So that's another case where the input voltage is going to affect the quality of your video signal if you don't have like a rock solid regulator. Presumably the regulator in the Fat Sharks is pretty good, but maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, it's something that would definitely affect your signal. All right, so let's see. So I'm going to bring the RapidFire down.
So you're turning down the input voltage on the RapidFire.
Yeah, if you want, I'll call it out. So I'll start at 5 volts. This is 4.9, 4.8, 4.7, 4.6.
And we're looking for any change in the video signal, that blue line.
4.6.
Eventually it'll go into low power mode.
Yeah, it should.
I do see a little bit of wobbling, and do you see that wobbling I'm talking about?
Yeah, we're at about 4 volts right now.
Yikes.
So 3.7.
What I do see, though, is that
6.
Nothing about the sort of amplitude of the video signal has changed the way it did with the TrueD, where it was clamping and cutting off the top of the signal.
Yeah, we just hit 3.6, and I saw a little bit of the top of that bright envelope start going down. So that's 3.5. So you can see we're starting to lose it. But
by 3.5, it's definitely in low power mode.
Yeah,
it's definitely giving you warnings that things aren't right. It's still holding on.
Yeah, so when at 4 volts, everything's good, and we just keep going up. 4.2, 4.3, 4.4.
That's great. That's that stability of that module.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, we're pointing out some differences in the way the TrueD handles the signal. I don't think anybody should read this as like we're taking down TrueD. It stands to reason that the $140 whatever immersion RC module is engineered to a different standard than the Furious module. I mean, that's just a fact.
Yeah, I
don't think anybody's surprised.
I feel like they could iterate once on this hardware and kind of fix these little bugs, and it would be a bit better. Like, I still think the way that they're clamping the video signal will tend to result in a little less stability than what the RapidFire and ClearView are doing. But in general, I don't think it's a terrible value for the money. I thought that Bluetooth feature is kind of cool. Like, there's a lot of cool things about it that you get that it's definitely a step up from the regular TrueD.
Oh yeah, we can see that it is doing like the sync reconstruction. There was a question when I first released the video of whether it was just like a high performance diversity module or whether it really had the quote unquote unicorn magic sync reconstruction and stuff, and it is doing that.
So one thing to interject though, it's not, from what I can tell, and I haven't dug deeply enough into it, it's not doing what Mode 2 does in the RapidFire.
So let's do that. I'm so glad you said that. Can we compare the behavior of the modules when they lose sync, like Mode 1, Mode 2, and look at the difference in their behaviors, the three of them?
Sure. Actually, you want me to put the cleaner supply back onto the TrueD?
However you think is best.
Yeah, I think that gives it at least a fair chance, versus looking at those little pops popping in.
So let's take a look at the Mode 1, Mode 2, and what these modules do with the sync pulses when we get rid of
Sure. We're going to put the RapidFire into Mode 2 here.
Okay. So we saw its behavior in Mode 1. What does it do in Mode? Can we see Mode 1 one more time just to refresh everybody's memory?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
And we've got the Furious in indoor mode. So actually, that's one thing we didn't look at too, is indoor mode works different than outdoor mode. So scroll over. And again, like we were doing before, I'm just going to turn off the RF output. So it's just like going into a deep null where there's no signal coming through. So, did I hit the right button? Oh, sorry, wrong button. Fat fingered it. So actually, I'm going to reduce the scale. This guy. So RapidFire gets lock again, and then we kill it. And you can see it's doing the sync pulses, and then the TrueD is doing that.
Now the TrueD is offset. The way it's doing the sync pulses looks offset from the other two. It's like it's doing the end of the sync pulse.
Yeah, another interesting thing is like the way as soon as I get rid of the signal, you can see it's like lined up with the input video signal, and it'll eventually start shifting over.
It didn't do it this time though. This time it's absolutely centered.
Yeah.
Interesting.
This was Mode 1 again on the RapidFire and indoor mode on the TrueD. So I will change both of them.
So this is outdoor mode and Mode 2.
That's correct. Outdoor mode and Mode 2. So turning the RF off, you can see how he He only clamps up high. Like he takes the highest signal and just brings it down a little bit. And the RapidFire doesn't attempt to do anything because it's the mode 2 combining, right? So he's always just kind of averaging the two analog signals from the two receivers, but he's not trying to reproduce any of the sync pulses.
Right. So there's two behaviors in these modules. The quote-unquote unicorn magic boils down to at least two main behaviors, which is sync pulse reconstruction, which prevents the screen from rolling, and then some way of smartly combining the signal from the two antennas that is more sophisticated than diversity. I'm not sure I could go into more detail than that.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
And then the RapidFire in mode 2 is not doing the sync reconstruction.
Yep, that's 100% correct. It's only doing the combining, and then if the signal gets weak enough on the bottom antenna, I think, I don't actually remember now, it's been a couple months since I looked at it, but there's a certain threshold when one of the antennas drops below it, instead of doing its kind of not magically, but kind of averaging the two video signals in, it just goes back into legacy mode and just picks one or the other purely based on the RSSI. And I think that was like right around minus 85 dBm input signal into the module. Whereas the TrueD, from just the little playing I've done with it, looks like it's almost always in like that legacy mode where it's switching back and forth. It doesn't really look like it's combining the two signals.
Interesting. So that I suspected this, that the TrueD is doing essentially half of the quote-unquote unicorn magic. That's my own term, but I'm going to keep saying it.
Yeah.
It's doing the sync reconstruction, but not the frame combining. It's sort of doing sync reconstruction with traditional diversity, is what you're guessing.
That's correct. I mean, I've had this on the bench where I feed one antenna a stronger signal and the other antenna port a weaker signal, and I kind of turn one up and down and move it around. And the RapidFire, if you get it into certain states, you can have a better signal on one of the antennas, and as you bring the second antenna down below a certain threshold, it will actually make the signal or the video signal a little bit noisier because it's trying to combine these two signals where one of them is
interesting. But
the one antenna that has to be the one that keeps it in that mode too. Like the signal strength on that antenna port,
right.
I believe it was the bottom one, has to be above 85 dBm for it to kind of do that combining. Otherwise, it just gives up.
When I first flew the ClearView for the very first time, this was a long time ago, one of the things I noted was that it had the way that the signal broke up was, I forget the words, more analog style, but of course this is analog. It just kind of went to static instead of glitching and rolling. Yeah. And that seems to be similar to what you're saying. Instead of trying to switch antennas, which has the problem of like diversity switching, the white flashes on screen, it's averaging the signal from the two antennas, which means you get noise, but you still get a stable image.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah, that's what I see.
Okay, so the RapidFire and the ClearView are doing that, but the TrueD doesn't seem to be doing that.
Doesn't appear to be doing it, yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. That's really fascinating, dude. That's fascinating.
Awesome. So you think that's enough for you?
Yeah, this
awesome.
is great. I really appreciate it. This is fantastic.
Problem.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for the interview. If you want more of this, go check out PK's channel linked in the video description. Thank you guys so much. Happy flying.